guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Manisha, and today I thought I would start off the New Year's with a reading vlog, and a reading vlog of A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I am so thoroughly enjoying this. So I'm about 100 pages in. I don't know why I always do that for reading vlogs. Like, I want to read a little bit to make sure I can actually say thoughts about it, and then also that I'm not going to DNF it. So yes. Anyways, so I have read about 115 pages, and I just love Ashley Poston because she's just such a great writer. And I mean that in the sense that she's able to capture things so well. So for example, in The 7-Year Slip, the way she captured the feeling of falling in love was so beautiful. That was what stood out to me the most from that book. And I read that a year ago, and I still can just remember how it made me feel. She's just very good at capturing things. So in this book, I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to take away from this, but the writing is very digestible. I'm flying through this book. I just started it yesterday and I can't put it down. But I am so far noticing that we are presented the main character in a way that we already feel very familiar with her already, even though we're only a third through, and we're just getting presented her backstory and, how she perceives herself and her relationships with others, like her best friend, her ex-boyfriend, all these things, in such a way that we just really feel or I just feel you get such a comprehensive understanding of her so quickly, and I am very impressed so far. My one little annoyance is the main character does something that I personally find really disgusting, and I think most people would, against the male love interest. And I just feel it wasn't necessary. And I feel what happened there could have been achieved in a different way. But because I'm enjoying the actual story so much, I'm going to keep reading. But I do think that happening kind of drops the rating of the book a little bit already for me personally. But I digress. I'm still really liking it, so I'm gonna just push through and in my mind be that never happened. But yeah, so I'm gonna get into it now. Okay, so I just finished A Novel Love Story, and guys, I loved it so much. I think I'm going to rate it a 4.25, 4.5, but I enjoyed it very thoroughly. That thing that happened that I alluded to in the last clip, I still don't think it was necessary after finishing this book, and I feel again, what happened with that was not really resonant into the plot. There was no reason for it to happen, but I digress. I really enjoyed this book, so I'm going to just rewrite that didn't happen in my world. But I think what I really liked about my reading experience with this is that I just didn't really hear anyone talk about this book in terms of people that I follow. Never read a review about it. And so I think that really let me read this book and experience this book for what it was instead of how other people were kind of perceiving it. And as someone that's so susceptible to what other people are thinking and kind of susceptible to reading things through other people's lenses after I've heard their opinion, top tier experience of reading this. I just enjoyed it so thoroughly because I also wasn't sure where this was going, because I knew the kind of basic plot line that our main character Elsie ends up being transported into the setting of her favorite romance book series, but I didn't know anything else. I didn't know how the romance was going to go down. I didn't know really how the romantic interest was going to end up with her because of the way that he's set up. So, it was a good time figuring things out and seeing how things played out. And I genuinely okay, I'm gonna actually go into my phone because I wrote thoughts down here. But first and foremost, I feel as a romance reader, sometimes you read books and you read about couples that you think these characters will definitely not be making it past the book because they just either lack communication, they lack a certain experience to make it work. But I love that this book, A Novel Love Story, not the fictional series in this book, addressed it, because it was interesting because I feel like that's not something that I would ever really like think about, like, oh, how can this be fixed? And how can this couple perhaps like go about fixing this relationship that I personally, as an outsider or reader, don't think is gonna make it? And it was a novel concept. um, but yeah, I enjoyed the author going there, but sorry, I'm getting too excited. But the actual cornerstone of me enjoying this book and just so pivotal to my experience and just loving this book was the friendship. The way that friendship is just so well integrated into the book, and just especially between Elsie and her best friend Prue, the way that they understand each other and just the way that they support each other, I just genuinely enjoyed so thoroughly. And you know, in a love story, I just loved seeing the friendship be so important in her development. It was just so magical. Every time that she was talking with Prue or with like her romance book club, it was just so heartwarming and just so wonderful to see her in such a lovely friendship dynamic. It was so good. Oh, I love this book. It was so good. Okay, so you know, that's enough gushing. You know, this is a serious channel, of course. So I think the next book I'm going to read is A Man Called Ove. Hello guys. So I wanted to, of course, update. So it's the next day. I've gotten about 22 pages in, so I'm on chapter 4, and we're really getting set up to not like Ove, because he's every crotchety old man you've ever met in your life. He's every person that's so stubborn, they don't want to do anything that's not their way, and then they think their way is the best way. So you're really set up as a reader to not like him. However, I have watched the movie, and while I do think maybe it can't be a one-to-one, because I don't think movies and books can ever be one-to-one adaptations of each other, but you know, I see the potential because we've had the neighbors move in, and that's not a spoiler because that happens like right at the beginning. And I already see their relationship starting to develop, and I love it. They're very cute. I love the female neighbor. I don't know if we've gotten her name yet. But anyways, the female neighbor, she's so sweet, and she's kind of just like definitely gonna be the person that breaks through Ove's kind of rough exterior, and I'm really excited to see this. My one hope, I don't know if I said this yesterday, but I really want to cry during this book. Like, books don't really make me cry, but I really want to. I want to cry so badly. I don't even remember if I cried during the movie. And honestly, I don't really want to compare this to the movie at all. I just want to let this sit by itself and just stand by itself. But I do want this to cry. I do want me to cry during this. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of thoughts, obviously. But so far, so good. Okay, so I've come to end the video. So you wouldn't know this, but it's been a few days, and I have finally finished A Man Called Ove. And I set out in this book to cry, and I did not, unfortunately. But I do think this was a really strong book in terms of character. Obviously, this book is centering around Ove, and there's a lot of effort put into really making him as unlikable as possible, then kind of showing him softening throughout the book. And then also, just the highlight for me personally was reading about his love with his wife. My heart was just melting. They are just so sweet, and it just makes me so sad. And you just, because you've already built up so much time, like really getting into this kind of mindset that Ove is very set in his ways, and then we get the first chapter of him and his wife, and you just see a completely different side of him, and it was just so sweet. I don't even know how to explain it, because also those chapters, it's not even in terms of the words that like you were like, oh, he's so in love with his wife, but it's just so strongly like in his actions, because it's not like the prose is so beautiful and I think, wow, they're so in love. But just, again, just seeing Ove break what his usual character is and doing all these things, you just see how, I don't want to use the word infatuated because I feel like that's dismissive of how strong they end up becoming, but he becomes so immediately just enraptured by her, like as soon as he sees her, and not in a creepy way, which was great. But truly, like, their love is just so beautiful because they just understand each other and are just so happy to be in each other's company, and I absolutely adored it. And I do think all the characters, like, this book is very much like extremely slice of life, so all the characters are obviously having to be quite strong in terms of their, like, not in development but characterization, and because this is mainly driven by characters, I want to say the characters have to be the strong element of this, otherwise the story won't really be driven forward. And I really appreciate it. I think that was really well done. But I do have some critiques, and my one, I don't want to say it's an annoyance because I think it's more to do with the writing style. It's not necessarily like, well, I guess that is an annoyance, but I just feel like this book is so short. It's 295 pages. And sometimes we get things repeated over and over, like facts, like especially Ove loves, I'm about to mispronounce this, a Saab, S-A-A-B. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he loves those. And there's like certain aspects of the plot that center around his car or cars that he's had in his life. And they'll repeat the same fact over and over about his car, like that he owned this car like many times throughout the book, or it's like referred to again. And I'm gonna be honest, I really was not keeping track of Ove's cars. So, like, it just didn't really matter which save he had at that point to me, personally. And then they would just keep repeating it, like, oh, he had his saves 900 here, and, like, his 9,000 here, whatever. And I was just like, okay, I got it. Anyways, it's okay. That's also part of the characterization. Like, I get it. It was just kind of not my cup of tea. My other kind of, what I wish was a little bit different was the feel-good aspect of this book is very much delegated to the last, like, little bit of this book. And I wish that it was a little bit pushed forward in the plot, because I don't, like, at some point, it kind of feels like, okay, Ove, like, I need you to, I don't want to say change, because he never really changes. It's just that people get to know him better. But I guess, again, he is a very strong, like, character. It's hard to break through, so it also makes sense with his character. I guess most of my critiques are just like what I would have wanted, but it's not consistent with his character. So maybe I should rate this higher, because in my mind, when I finished this, and then I kind of thought on it a little bit more this morning, I was like, I'm gonna rate this a 3.75. But maybe I'll rate it to a 4. I was kind of contemplating this, like, even when I was writing down my rating, I was like, it's kind of like a 3.754. I think I'm gonna bump it. It's a 4. This was a very strong book. I just wish it made me cry. Anyways, I appreciate you guys coming along on this first reading vlog and first video of this new year. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye, guys!